All right, we are live now. Thank you everybody for joining us for today's presentation where we're introducing the new Enscape 3.2 Dynamic Design Vivid Visualization.
Hi,
Our
hi.
speakers today, yeah, I'm Josh Rado. I'm one of the application engineers here at Enscape. I'm based out of Minnesota.
And I'm Kai. Kai Burival, also an application engineer here at Enscape. I'm based in Karlsruhe in Germany. And thank you everyone for joining our talk today.
Yeah. All right, so real quick, we have some really great useful resources that we always like to tell people about. First up is our knowledge base. This is a very great article to get really detailed how-to articles to help get the most out of Enscape for you. It's got really great tips and what each feature of Enscape does here, so definitely check that one out. Our blog is a very, very great article for all the latest product news and useful articles for all things Enscape. Our YouTube channel is a very, very great place to get really in-depth tutorials and videos from our Enscape team and our community of users. And same with our Enscape forum. They have some really great in-depth thread articles, tips and tricks from our community, and it's broken out by different design application that we support as well. So you can definitely check those out. Really, really great articles. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be doing some live hands-on demos where we're going to be talking about the new dynamic asset placement. We're going to talk about the batch panorama and uploads update. We're going to talk about panorama tour, some ray trace sun shadows in real-time view, the geometry update toggle, and of course the new assets that we have, Windows 11 support, and our new license handling. Then we'll wrap it up. All
Wonderful.
right.
Also, if you have any questions at any point, as usual, just drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to respond. But more on that later on. And yeah, if you have nothing more to add, Josh, I'm gonna
Nope,
start.
it's all you, man.
I'm gonna
Yeah, let's
grab
see this.
the screen, the monitor, the display, and tell you all about our new dynamic asset placement. So,
All right. Can't
assets.
wait.
Assets. I hope everyone is aware that we have an extensive asset library of more than 2,500 models that is being delivered with Enscape that you can use to set dress your scene. Overall, a number of beautiful 3D models that are both high quality and of great performance. So they're really made for a real-time visualization, and essentially you can pick any of those, place them in your design application, and they're gonna show up right there. Um, oh yeah, there it is. Obviously, I misunderstood where I was in the model. So yeah, and they're gonna appear right away in both your design application as a simplified placeholder and in Enscape in their full glory and detail. So that's fine, that's good. That's also gonna stay as it is. So that's really important for me. We didn't take away that functionality, we've enhanced it, or more precisely, we've moved it over to Enscape additionally. So while you can still place assets, manage assets, move, scale them in your design application, you can now access this entire system in Enscape as well, right in the Enscape window. And we've added some functionalities on top of that. Because, as you know, we have a very special position as Enscape, somewhere in between your visualization and presentation, but also very, very close, or being the visualization, but also very close to your professional workflows. And we're always looking for new ways how we can leverage that position to make your processes faster, more streamlined, your life easier. So, in order to do that, once again, we have moved the asset library into Enscape as well. This little button up here, as you see, you can also press the hotkey L, will open the asset library, and we have the exact same models available here as we have them in your design application. This also includes any custom assets you might have loaded into your scene. So they are there as well and can be used the same way. And I can pick a category. We'll have a detailed look into the user interface and how to control it in a second. Just to show you, I can just click on any of these assets and now place it right inside of Enscape. You see, as soon as I place it, there is a gray placeholder there. However, I can press apply changes at any point. Before that, let me minimize Enscape here. And as soon as I press apply changes, both the high quality version of the model is being loaded into the Enscape visualization. And the placeholder is also set in SketchUp in your design application, which means you have the same control over there. You can still move them around over here as well, of course, or edit them. So it's the same kind of assets. It's the same management. We just have access from both sides now to it. So that's really, really useful. You can imagine, like, whenever you're reviewing a scene, when you explore the model, maybe discuss with your team, maybe prepare renderings, place views. Those are all occasions where maybe you will notice, oh, okay, this corner could use some more detail, some more flowers or whatever. Instead of having to go back to your design application and searching for the same area and having to place those assets there, you can just hit the L key, pick one asset, place it there right away, and overall you have a much more streamlined workflow.
Nice. It's really cool.
Right? Really, really happy with this feature. I'm really looking forward to hearing how people use that. Now, I told you you can also edit those assets straight away in Enscape, so you can pick them, you can move them around, you can scale them, rotate them, and you can delete them if you want to. Once again, we'll have a look into this in a second. And you can also, and that's some additional functionality that we've added here, you can also mass place assets. So if we wanted to, we could just quickly draw an area here, pick multiple assets, and they're gonna be scattered randomly or not randomly if you decide to do so in the scene. So let's circle a step, or let's take a step back and go over it in detail how exactly to use this. So I'm gonna discard all. We're gonna be back here in a second. Let's see, confirm and leave, and discard all here. Wonderful. Okay, so first of all, as you see, the interface looks a tiny little bit different than what we have in the design application. We have the search bar up here, so if I wanted to look for for a bicycle, for example, let's see. And you see we can use that search bar and it will deliver or it show us the assets that we've been searching for. Next to that is this magnifying glass that acts as an confirmation for the search. And next to that is the categories button, which now currently shows a little people sign. This button can change its appearance depending on what category you have currently selected. If I go to all, you will see this infinity Mobius strip, and yeah, here's where you can pick different categories to place assets from. Next to that is the tag icon, same thing. You have the same tags as you probably know them from the asset library, and you can filter your assets that way. Below that, we have the movement tool, translate tool. You can activate that by pressing the T key at any point, and you can select assets in Enscape. So once I click on an asset, you see it is being reverted to its placeholder state, which is perfectly normal while we're editing it. In the translate tool, you get 3 axes you can move it on: the blue, the red, and the green up axis. You can also choose to click right here in the middle where we have this orange circle, and that will let you place the asset on any surface or add any surface, as you see here. And as you see, it is respecting the geometry that we have in Enscape, that you have in your scene. So you don't have to worry about, is it too high, is it too low, is it going to stick out of the surface or hover in the air? No, Enscape is taking care of that for you. So that's really, really useful. And in this translation tool, we also have this green circle, which you can use to quickly rotate it around the up axis. Below that, we have the rotation tool. You can enable it using the hotkey R. In some design applications, like for example Revit, it is only possible to rotate objects around the up axis. In those cases, this rotate tool is grayed out. If that's the case, don't worry, you can just use the translate tool as I have it here already, and use the screen circle to rotate an asset around the up axis. By the way, at the bottom here, we also have a number of input fields where you can enter the position, for example, of the asset or the rotation. So to return to our initial rotation, I'm just going to hit or to enter 0, and we are good. Once again, rotation tool, same thing. You get 3 axes, you get these input fields down here that you can use, and you can rotate it around any of these colored axes here. Let's go back to 0 again. And lastly, we have the translate tool that also allows you to scale any of the assets. And let's return to 100% down here. Okay, so you can also, as I mentioned earlier, use this trash bin icon down here to delete an asset, or just press the delete key on your keyboard and it's being done that way. And once again, you see nothing changes on the design application side until we hit apply changes. Wonderful. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, right. Really looking forward to see that in action from our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, it's really just the beginning, the top of the iceberg. One of the most anticipated additions, of course, to this functionality is the multi-asset placement. So if you are in multi-asset placement, you can click this button up here to return to single asset placement, but you can click this button to get to multi-asset placement. In the multi-asset placement mode, we have a number of, we have this selected assets. Oh, wait a second. We have this selected assets area down here that shows us what assets we currently have selected. And actually, maybe let me go over here onto a green or onto a grassy area, because I think I want to use this to place some trees, which, if you have done that manually so far, you know, can be quite tedious, because you did have to place everyone individually or rotate them individually, and you can let Enscape do all of that now on its own. So let's go to the this vegetation category, and you see our selected assets area is empty. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm just going to select a couple of assets, and you see them showing up down here that I think will look nice in my visualization. Let's actually just go with a couple. So these 5, I think that's enough. And in the bottom left corner, you see we have individual ways to place these. We have the rectangular selection, we have the circular selection, and we have the bucket selection. So for a rectangular selection, I click once anywhere on a surface in Enscape, and a second time on the same or in another surface, both is fine, and to determine my selection. And now I can use this width slider to make this the selection wider or narrow it down, whatever I want. And I could already click confirm placement, apply those changes. I can, however, also, you know, we have these placeholders here visible right now. If you want to get a feedback what this is going to look like later on, you can also click on preview selected area. Down here, this checkbox, and that will load the full detail models, so you can review what those are going to look like. Exactly. One more thing that I want to really highlight here is Enscape is taking the scale of the assets into account and the room we have, so it does its best to prevent them from overlapping. So yeah, you don't have to worry. Even if we scale up the density, let's try that, you will still get, okay, that's maybe too big of an asset, or maybe we should increase the width of our selection a bit. But yeah, they won't overlap, which means you don't have to worry about an unrealistic look in any way. Okay, so that's the rectangular selection here. Let me actually just confirm the placement here and apply those changes. So we leave those trees as they are. Obviously, this tree might get a little bit difficult when there's a truck driving by on that street, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. to show you the second way of asset mask placement, that is the circular selection. Essentially working very similar to the first one. You click once to determine the center point of the circle, and a second time to determine the radius. And I didn't mention that before, but if you want to change your selection at any point, you can still grab any of these orange spheres here and still move it around. All right, that's that. Let's actually go the same way. I'm just going to confirm the placement and apply the changes so we see those nice trees already. Let me maybe actually go with some... No, I'm just going to stick with the trees, and we're going to take a much larger area now, because we are having a look at the bucket selection. The bucket selection, as you can probably think, will select an entire surface and populate it completely with any assets that you have selected that we have down here. And once again, we can change the density to make it less populated or more. And you can also change the distribution. I didn't mention that before, but you can choose to have them completely randomly scattered. You can choose jitter, which it's probably hard to tell with these trees, but it is placing them on a grid with a slight offset. So it's close to random, but there is some method behind it, some method to the madness, so to say.
No, that's going to save me a lot of time, because now I don't have to individually go rotate them to get a randomized look.
And that's an additional point. You have this random rotation setting down here. And of course, it depends. For example, you might want to mask place cars on a parking lot, for example. In that case, go with uniform, have them on a grid, and also disable random rotation, because you want all the cars, of course, to be facing the same direction. In most cases, when it's about natural placement, however, people, trees, vegetation in general, you'll probably want to have this random rotation turned on and also random selected, and you will get a natural look to it. And yeah, that's already the most how to place these assets in bulk. We could preview this. You could regenerate the placement if you just want to re-roll the dice, so to say. And you can either confirm placement. Of course, you can also press this X down here if you decided otherwise and just want to leave it empty. But I'm just going to click confirm placement, apply changes, and we'll see those trees being updated into and loaded into SketchUp, so we can now review it, of course, here as well. And let's see, there we are. So a lot of manual labor done automatically and immediately here. So yeah, that is our first addition to the feature set that I wanted to introduce to you, the dynamic asset placement, including the multi-asset placement. Josh, what you got?
Well, hey, Kai, thanks for showing us that. That was some really, really cool features. I can't wait to try it out. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a huge, huge time saver for us. All right, so what I'm going to talk about now is the batch panorama and uploads update. So let's switch over here and let's talk about this. All right, so for the batch panoramas, we have a new, previously you had to go to screenshot, and then there was a little drop-down arrow under screenshot where you could get to batch renderings. Now this button is over here by itself. So now what you can do is you click this batch panorama, or you click this batch rendering button here, and now you can select any view that you want, or you can select all of them. Then there's going to be a little arrow that pops up down here on the bottom here. Now what you can do is you get the option to render images, or you get the option now. This is a really heavily requested feature from our community here, so now it's finally here. Now we get the ability to finally render. We get the ability to finally batch render panoramas. So this is where you're going to be able to do mono or stereo panoramas as a batch rendering. So you just click either one that you want, and it'll start batch rendering your panoramas for you. So this is a really big step, really, really cool new feature. So now you can just let those go, and they will pop up over in our uploads management tab now. Instead of our uploads manager, it's now our uploads management tab here. So if we click this, we'll let this load up here quick. All right. So with 3.0, we revamped the whole UI and gave Enscape a whole new look. So now our uploads management tab has that fresh new look now. So we can see here the UI is matching the rest of our our user interface here now. Same with the web standalones. But now our panoramas are going to be broken out by different projects, and it's also going to be broken out by the different types of panoramas that they are. So once our panoramas are updated here, this brings us to our next feature here. The re-updating of the panoramas and the panorama tour. So this is another really, really big thing for us here. So once we create a panorama, we can see here it's still right here, and we can still upload that to our cloud if it's not updated. If it's not uploaded to our cloud here, we can just hit this blue arrow button right here, and this will upload this to our cloud storage system now. So that's how we upload that to our cloud. And then we have the different ways here to fly to the position. So again, we can fly to any different position here from our panoramas. And now what we can do now is, hey Kai, do you remember that panorama or that QR code I sent you a while ago?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've recently made an update to that model. So give me a second here. I'm going to show you this new feature that we have where it's going to update that. Because previously, once you do a panorama and you send the QR code or the link, it's locked to that position in time. So if I make an update to the model, I'm going to have to regenerate that link and then regenerate that QR code and resend that to you. Well, now what I can do is, so I made a change to that model. And now what I can do is where it says, there's a new button that says replace upload panorama in cloud. If I click that button, now I can pick anyone that I want to replace with. So let's go down here.
So that means you can like have one static link on your website, or you can have one QR code maybe printed on a sticker at the construction site, and you can replace the content?
Correct. Yep. So now one link, like you said, you can have one link and it's going to automatically be replaced. And so how I just did that was, if I go over to the panorama that I want to update with, it's not uploaded yet, I have to just simply click this little replace upload panorama in cloud button. And now I can select the panorama that I want to replace that with. So I want to replace it with this one because I made a design change to it. So now I can click next. It's going to tell me, here's my new one, here's my old one, and here's the link that it's going to be replacing. So I'm going to hit replace. And it's going to replace that for me. So this is going to be a really, really cool feature for us here.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like you said, and boom, now it's replaced. So now you could refresh that QR code on your phone or on your website, and you would see the new updated change for us too.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing on the UI, where we have these three dots now, this is where we can still click in there, and to get to those QR codes that I was talking about, this is where you have access to save the QR code as file. You can copy the QR code or copy the link that it's tied to, or there's a new button to where if somebody's having trouble getting it on their phone, you can just click open in a web browser and it's going to open that web browser for me. So previously I'd have to copy the link and then go to a web browser and paste it in there. But now I can just hit open in web browser. So that's a really cool feature there. So this brings us to our next feature here, the panoramic tour. So if you log into your Enscape account through enscape3d.com and you just log in and then you go to your uploads section here, this is where you can get access to all your uploads. So you can see all the different projects that I've created uploads for. So there's a button in here called Create Mono Panorama Gallery. We had this panorama gallery from 3.1, but now what we can do is we can create our own panorama tour. So we'll show you guys how to do this. So you select the project that you want. It's going to take all the panoramas from that project, and it's going to load them all here. And now what I can do is I can click all my panoramas that I want. I can hit start editing. So now we can see here how they're broken out by the different views that I have set up. So again, this was in 3.1, but now with 3.2, because previously I could only click to the different ones here, or I had these navigation buttons next or previous, and it would take me to the different ones. But now with 3.2, there's a button up here that's going to give me the ability to activate tour mode. So I'm going to click tour. first one I'm going to show you is show 2 waypoints. So 2 waypoints is going to show you the next 2 that are in my queue down here. So I can hit previous, or I can hit next, and that's going to take me to the next image that I have set up in my queue. And at any time too, if I need to adjust this, if I need to move some of these around, the little markers will update for me instantaneously as well. So if I need to click show all waypoints now, I can hit confirm, and now this will show me all the different ones that I have in my scene, or in my tour set up now. So again, I can hover over them and start clicking to the different ones and freely exploring my model as a pre-guided tour. Now when I'm done, I can hit save. I can call this my awesome tour. I can hit save. It'll save that to my project that I want it to save to. And perfect. And now I'm ready to explore this. All right. And at any time too, if I need to update that, I can make an edit, or I can even add some in there. So I can add a panorama if I need to. So if I generate a new one, I can load that in there. One thing to note is if you redo the panorama, you will just need to add that one inside of here to your tour, and then you can hit add selection, and then you can hit save, and now you can send that to your clients.
Nice.
So then a couple ways, yeah. And then how you can share that is you can go to the 3 dots right there, and you still get the share options. So then you could copy that link, or you could email that directly to them. And that is our Panos and Panoramas tour and uploads thing. Kai, what you got next?
Cool. I have ray traced sun shadows. Now, you might remember this sample project here from our 3.1 release. It was, right? No, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was 3.1.
Yep.
Exactly. And here we also showed you that with RTX capable graphics cards, you can now enjoy ray traced sun shadows. What does that mean? Well, previously shadows would be saved in image files and textures on the graphics card, which is, easy and fast to do. But it could lead to some issues, especially if you, for example, had so first of all, if you had like a distant shadow from the geometry, like we have this tree here, right? And the further the geometry that is casting that shadow is from the surface that it's arriving on, the more blurry a shadow gets in nature. Previously, with our non-ray traced shadows, it wouldn't have that effect. You could still control the shadow softness using the atmosphere tab, the shadow sharpness slider here, but you would essentially have an homogeneous and equal softness throughout the shadow, no matter what distance it is from the geometry. This has changed with Enscape 3.1 for still images and panoramas, but it wasn't available for videos for real-time experience as we have it here. But that has changed. Now these real-time ray trace, or these ray trace shadows, are also available in videos and in real time if you have an RTX capable graphics card. So that is important. But then you get much more realistic shadows, and we can see that very nicely here. Like what is close to the geometry that is casting that shadow, it's nice and sharp. What is further away is blurred out, and especially where those two overlap, where you would have multiple shadows of different kinds, so to say, that is what could cause a lot of issues in the past. Well, and with the RTX technology, we now get to deliver these real-time, or these ray-traced sun shadows in any Enscape view, so in real time as well. Important, this is only referring to sun shadows nonetheless, so if you have an artificial light source, that will still work with these shadow textures, but with sun influence, you really see this gradient between sharp shadows and this lovely blurred effect. And if you want to change your shadow appearance, of course, the shadow sharpness slider is still functional, so you can still edit that to your liking, so to say. But we have an overall much more realistic behavior now.
Nice. It's really cool.
Yeah, right. So what is your side next?
Ooh, I have geometry update toggle. So let's talk about that quick. So in 3.0, we released every time you were switching between views, it would reload the model. So it'd see any new changes to the model or anything like that. Well, for really, really big projects, this kind of slow down our reload times. So with 3.2, now open our view management tab here. We have a button down here in the bottom left where it says export geometry. So what this is going to do now is if you deactivate this, now when you switch between views, it's going to not reload any of the geometry from your design application. So now it's literally just taking whatever's loaded in here, and now you can flip between the different views without having to reload the geometry all at once. So again, this will allow to be able to flip between views a lot faster, especially when doing a client presentation. Again, just flipping between them.
So
it's a lot smoother now.
That means like you can have one geometry setting in one view. You can have the setting enabled like if you want to all the time, if you don't want geometry updates. But once you want to update the geometry, let's say if you have like a wall maybe, and you want that hidden to show the plumbing inside, for example, you can just switch that, like enable the geometry update, switch that view, disable the geometry update again, and you essentially have this new geometry in your Enscape presentation from then on. Am I right?
Correct. Cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, and again, that's found in our view management tab here. And then down on the bottom, it's just the export geometry here. Also, you can find this when you're doing batch rendering. So it'll be down here as well. So that's another really cool feature inside of 3.2 here. Kai, what you got next?
We are coming to an end. So already lots of nice new additions in the Enscape feature set there. Of course, we can't let you go without a bunch of new assets that you can now utilize in your Enscape visualizations. I have this nice little project where they're all lined up neatly. So we have a number of trees, of plants. We have some new cars over here, electronic cars. So we're very, very on the on the green side, so to say. Here we have some interesting new flying objects, like the city drone here in multiple scales, and this one. So a lot of new diversity for your assets, some birches, and a lot of green assets here, like windmills as you see them here. Oh, and of course a lot of new people assets as well.
Are there solar panels too?
There are solar panels too.
Oh.
Like almost overlooked them over here, but yes, they are of course. So cool. Yeah, of course, those are available as soon as you update Enscape right away in your asset library. Feel free to use them and improve or set dress your scenes with it. Apart from that, one more thing, as you might have heard, there is a new Windows coming out or already available. Windows 11, so the successor, so to say, to the last Windows ever, as it was announced. Long story short, we do support it with Enscape 3.2 as well. Before that, should have worked as well, but of course we need to check everything, etc. So we can say officially that we support Windows 11 with Enscape 3.2 now. So that is a great news. And there is also one news regarding license handling, which only affects floating license users. So if you're a fixed seat license user, everything will stay the same as it is for floating license users because of the improvements, because of the developments that we have made with Enscape, and for and the overall feature sets that we've added. The additional windows that you can now open, or that you can open in your design application, like the asset library, the material library, the material editor. If you are using a floating license, if you open these, those will also occupy one seat, which doesn't mean that if you have Enscape and the material editor opened at the same time, it will occupy two seats. That is not the case. But if you don't have the Enscape window open, but you have the Enscape Material Editor open, for example, that will occupy one license seat. So you can have Enscape open the entire time just as well. Yeah, those are the major changes that we wanted to showcase to you today. Josh, anything to say before we head over and answer some questions?
No, that was really great. Yeah, thank you for showing us all these cool features, Kai. That was really cool.
Pleasure.
Yeah, a lot of really cool things. All right, now to get the latest version, what you're going to do is you're going to go to enscape3d.com/latest version. That's where you can try out the latest version of Enscape 3.2. And now with that, feel free to throw you guys' questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to all the questions.
And we're just gonna switch some levers here and be with you in a second. And hi, Josh.
How's it going, man?
How is it going? Yeah, so
good,
a lot of questions in the chat. A lot of them already answered. If you want to have your question answered live, drop it in the chat now, ideally, and we'll see what we can respond to.
All right. Ooh, we got a question right here. Does RTX features work with RTX graphics powered laptops? Yep, as long as the graphics card is supporting RTX features, it should run just fine on a laptop.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. All right, what else?
Once again, I can only agree. Thank you very much for all the kind words. Once again, the developers will be glad to hear you enjoy it. Can you review where you all are for your texture library? So the texture library in general, you can select where to save those textures. You can select that path ideally before you start with the project, so you don't run into issues later on. And someone in the chat asked for a file or for the textures downloaded already. The best way to get them into a model is, you'll probably have to download the materials manually, but the textures will be where you can link to those textures from the material library. No, from the material library.
All right, we got one. Will we include future seasonal trees like fall, winter content, holiday seasons, i.e. Christmas and Halloween? Great idea. Thank you for sending that over. We'll be sure to get that over to our 3D artist team.
Just looking up the system requirements, to be honest, someone is asking if you can run Enscape 3.2 on Windows 8.1. I believe. Where is it? No, Windows 10 or higher. In general, all the questions regarding will you do that or any plans for, you can in general have a look at our features page. Maybe you can show that just really quick. There is a development agenda or a roadmap on that.
Yep,
and if you want to participate with the discussion, it's ideal to go into the forums, for example. Our colleagues are very busy counting, however, everyone who shared their feedback in the chat. Thank you for that. We're also going to forward this, so we are really thankful for your opinion. Repeating the question regarding animated content, cars, people support, that is one example of that. We get a lot of requests for that. It will be forwarded, but there is no current plans that I can speak of.
Mm-hmm.
Can't see the two icons at the bottom of the view management toolbar. Only the create view button is there. I would verify that you have views created already, and if this checkbox to update the geometry is not there, maybe you haven't updated Enscape yet. to emphasize, with any Enscape subscription, by the way, you can you can download the latest version and update right away.
Mm-hmm. And to get to our latest version, you can go to enscape3d.com/latest versions. Here you can get, if you're already subscribed, you can get the newest updated version here. Or if you haven't yet, you can definitely get my free trial if you're not currently using Enscape.
If we have rendered with a standalone file and provided it with the client, whether to open it, the client must have a computer with good graphics, such as an RTX graphics card. Well, it doesn't have to be an RTX graphics card, but it should support our system requirements exactly. If your client's machine does not support our system requirements, that's where you can use the Panorama tool for. Will custom assets work with the random distribution function? Yes, absolutely. Even you can actually combine Enscape assets and custom assets that you've imported in the same mix, so to say. So you're completely free. Can you confirm that dynamic assets will be applied to the active workset in Revit? I'm not sure, Josh, did you test that? I think that's the case.
I'm sorry, what? I was reading another question.
Sorry, that the dynamic assets are being applied to the active work set in Revit. Did you?
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Yep, the active. Yep, they are. So whatever you have selected at that time, that's what they're going to be placed on.
Sorry, I know you have a question coming, but this one really struck my eye. Hope you have video map content added to Enscape so user can add TV with video loaded or fire effects for fireplace. That is the case. You can actually load in a video file instead of a color texture in the Enscape Material Editor. Simple as that. Works with all design applications. You can even use it as emissive or light emitter or emissive material, which is great for fireplaces and TVs. It's already there. You just need to load in a video file instead of a color texture. Okay, Josh, your turn. Sorry, I grabbed a few.
Yeah, no worries. No, I was reading the one about soon we'll have the possibility to use all PBR maps in texture creation process. They're a V-Ray user, so that would be an amazing option too. Again, thank you for the great feedback. We'll definitely get that over to product management for a feature request.
What file extension would a custom asset be? It's called astpkg.astpkg. And it's amazing because you can actually, you have this select a folder where your assets are being loaded or saved, stored button in the bottom right corner of the custom asset or of the custom area of the asset library. And you can share your entire folder of custom assets with anyone, and they can just link to that folder and they'll have the assets fully loaded in Enscape right away. So they, the textures, the materials, everything will fit. They will have the same assets. So this custom asset ASTPKG file format is really cool.
Oh, here's a good one. Am I using Dynamo? I'm using Dynamo to populate the assets now. Is it still working in the new version? Yep, still. You can still do it that way.
Yep. Enscape doesn't say which computer user is using the license in the licensing screen. A username would be useful. So you can reach out to a licensing team, license@enscape3d.com, and they can change at least the name that is connected to that license, if that helps maybe. You have one, Josh?
Is there functionality with 3D Google Earth Topo? I'm wondering if that's in regards to taking Google Earth images or Google Earth into SketchUp, which
into Enscape.
Yeah, it would read it because it'd be 3D geometry. But if we have a look at our features for 3.3, there's something that you guys might want to look at called site models.
We've got something brewing.
Yep, something in 3.3 is coming.
interesting question. Can you only use IES files on the spotlights? Yes, that is the case. I was first thinking of answering the question as you can also not use IES files, but now I understood the question, I think. Okay. Only on spotlights, yeah. Actually, let me check.
Oh, we got one here. Can I use my own 360 picture? I can use my own 360 picture, but I can't scale it to the right size to have a realistic rendering. Will this be possible in the future? Great question. We will definitely forward that as a feature request. But for the time being right now, what you could do is you could just make a plane and then stick that picture on there, or a curved one and then frame up the shot on how you would like that to look. But again, thanks for that feedback.
Again, if maybe one of the questions is not being answered right now, the chance is high that is kind of a feature request that we'll definitely store and forward. By the way, if there is a topic that you want to discuss that might not be covered by our Q&A today, you can also go to our website and schedule a web session with either Josh or me to get individual help. Right there.
Yeah, so if you just go to enscape3d.com and then scroll all the way down to the bottom, there will be a request a free personal demo. That's where you could, like Kai said, you could set that up with either myself or Kai.
Yeah, and I think there are no new questions coming in. So thanks a lot for having us. It was a pleasure and great to hear that you enjoy Enscape 3.2.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe, and yeah, share your experiences with us in the forums, and looking forward to see you for the next release. See you then. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.